Hi, it's Gadget UK here again. This time I'm going to come back to the 2600 here. I've been meaning to do this for a long time actually, composite mod. Now I've got a little PCB here. You can order one of these. It's from OSH Park. I'll post a link down below in the video description. As you can see, it's just a couple of resistors and a transistor here. I think it's an emitter follower circuit or something, if memory serves. So you can see there's a couple of markings. Might focus very well. VCC, video in is the V. The bottom there is ground. Sorry, I'm obscuring it with my thumb. And then you've got video out and ground. And obviously the only other thing I need is the audio. So from what I've read, I think you remove a transistor, an inductor and potentially a resistor as well off the board there inside the 2600. Maybe remove the modulator. I think I'll probably do that because I'm never going to use it again. And these always have this fixed, you can see, wire coming out the back here. So I might actually use that wire actually and just put a different connector on here. I'm not sure. I might remove it completely. And then I've got, where is it? This lead. So I could, snip the ends off here and have this lead coming out the back instead. So it's just got, the audio and video connections. It's a shame the colour's not right. They like nice to have like a yellow and red or yellow and black or something, or yellow and white. But yeah, that should do, I think. Whilst I'm there, I've also got is it a 2532 or 2632? I can never remember the part number. Raider chip. It's an alternative manufacturer. I think it's I forget the name. I'll show you it later, but I'm going to try that one in there as well, just to see if those work as a replacement in these. And then perhaps in a future video, I've got a bunch of cards which are faulty, so I'll see if I can get some of those working as well. They need a new mask ROM. But I think you've got to, the way the mask ROMs work on these, I think one of the upper address lines is inverted, so you've got to have like a NOT gate or something on there as well. So anyway, that'll be a separate video. So I'll just whip the screws out. I've covered this before, but yeah, it's all the screws underneath. I think there's like six screws to get inside this. So I've got the lid off there. You can see one thing you can do is, these pieces, see if I can pull one off without destroying it. These pieces of foam, they disintegrate. That one's barely on its last legs actually. So what you can do is just get some black felt and just cut it to shape. Bear in mind, they're not perfectly round, etc. But what it just covers it. Once the lid, you can see, you've only got small gaps on these switches. Once the lid's on there, they look okay. They look just like the original. So that's a good replacement. Just a bit of felt there. I've previously redone all these switches. I think I took them to pieces, cleaned them, and then reassembled them. So the switches are pretty good on this actually. Yeah, they all seem okay. But you can see the modulator board here. So this looks slightly different to one of the ones I've seen on the guides and things. It had 3 pins here or something. You could just desolder it really easily. So I'll inspect a bit further, but yeah, this is what I mean. This lead here, I could just do away with it, and if I can feed it, yeah I can. But you can see, just look underneath here at that cavity. Maybe, it could be tight. I reckon I could squeeze those through there one by one and get that through. Yeah, I can, I think. So that'll be nice. It means I don't need to cut any holes or anything, just have the the lead coming out the back there. So I'll get this board out next, and the main counter here, because that's where the logic board is inside there. So I've got the innards out there now, so if we just feed that out, and we'll try and see if we can feed these through. I don't think there's going to be a problem. That should be a bit tight there. Yeah, there we go. So then I can just strip the ends of these off, and that'll be my audio and video done. I'll just have a permanent AV lead on it. So it's really interesting actually how this thing is mounted on here. If you look there, can you see it's not flat. You've got a couple of supports here, just holding it. Probably ground connections, yeah they are. Just holding it off the board. And then at this point just under here, those are the connections I was expecting to see on the top side. So if I just desolder those, desolder the 2 supports, I think there's a point here, a couple of ground points here as well, then the whole modulator should come off. So I'll do that first, I think. So whilst I'm here, I'm going to recap it as well. I'm going to replace that 2200 and that 4.7 down there. So I swapped out the 2 caps. I've got the right size package for that 4.7 there. I haven't got one for that. So I'll glue that down. I'll just stick a bit of insulation tape just over those contacts there, just in case they come detached. But I think with a bit of hot melt glue on either side of that cap, that should hold in position. So in terms of getting in this, just get the screws all out from around the edges. There's just that last one remaining now, and then the PCB should come out. So on the digital board, I've swapped out this cap here. We've got a 4.7 microfarad cap in that position. I've removed Q202 down here. If I can show you, a little transistor. So that's that done, and I've also removed the inductor from this position here, just there. So I think that should be okay. I think the video is no longer going to be merged with the audio. There is talk on some of the articles out there about removing a resistor. Now it mentions a few of the articles I've looked at mention R213. Can't find an R213. There is an R231. You know, the 3-in-1 reversed. I forgot what it is now. It's just down here, feeds into the the base, I think, of that transistor. The transistor's not there anyway, so I don't think I need to worry about that. I don't think it goes anywhere else. Maybe it does. Maybe I do need to remove that resistor there, R231. We'll try it with it in place. If it's still not right, or we're getting a noisy picture, I might need to remove that. So in terms of the next step here, I've cut the end off the audio wire here that's going to come in, and the easiest place to tap audio is here, C120, that little pad there, either on that side or on the opposite side. So on the underside it's which one is it? It's that one there, that pad there. So that's where I'm going to take the audio out. I just need to find a ground. I'll solder these onto this board, and that's the audio taken care of, and then I just need to route out the video. I'm not sure where to take the video yet, actually. I'll report back on the video in a minute. So the other thing I was going to do while I'm here, swap out the riot chip. You can see here I've got a Rockwell 6532P, and I believe this is the riot chip here, C010750. So yeah, I'll get this out very carefully, swap it over. It's going to generate less heat and stuff, and we'll just see if it works. If it works, I'll just leave it in. So I've got my audio connection here, and then I just extended the wire here to tap a ground off of the audio down there. So and on this side, as you can see, I've got the Rockwell riot chip in here now. So I'm going to stick this back together now. There we go, all screwed together. And this acts as a bit of a grommet here. I don't know if you can see, it's like the little gap is almost wide enough for the wire, so it's just crimped it down a bit. It shouldn't cause any problems with it. Hopefully that won't be an issue inside the case, just routing it to the side or something. Yeah, I think that should be okay. So let's look at the video bit now. So it would appear that we've got ground there, first pin 1, skip 1, VCC, and then video out, and the fifth one's not used, I don't think. So yeah, I wonder if there's any way I can line this up and put this on here or something, because it probably would fit. Yeah, that's almost, I could almost put 2 pins straight through there and mount that, bang, like that there, and then connect the VCC up, and have it on here. That's what I think I'm going to try and do. I think I'm going to try and fit it like that there, just overlaid, so the first pin and the third pin are holding it in position. So I don't know if this is going to fit. I might have to move the thing around, but I'm going to have, you can see there's a bit of flexibility there. They're not, they're not holding it in such a way that I couldn't move it. I could move it a little bit if I wanted to, but if I just test with the multimeter here, just give myself some peace of mind. VCC is on this side, so if I connect to the positive of that cap, we've got dead short. Nothing on that side, yeah, but dead short. So the VCC is correct. If I check ground, it should be the negative of that cap. And again, looking at the meter, I've got a dead short. So that's the supply. Okay, let's say I can bend this. It's just held by those 2 pieces of wire there. So the only other thing I need to do now is wire up the outputs to the red lead here, so ground and video out, and the video in. So I'll just have a little wire linking that across, and it should be done. So I don't know if you can see that. It's pretty fuzzy. If I reset it, you can hear the sound. Sounds perfect, but that display is just awful. I'll see if I move you up, because you've got quite a lot of light there. Can you see that? Yeah, it's really noisy. I think there is a resistor needs removing, so I'll just quickly take that apart again and just see if I can work out which one it is. So I'm sorry it's quite bright in here, but hopefully you can see evidence now that that actually has been solved by swapping over to a more linear power supply. So it was indeed the fact that the cheap Chinese switch mode power supply was introducing some noise. You know, we've not got the purple lines, little bands, like little strips of pixels, you know, bands flowing up the screen here. I've never seen that before. Interestingly enough, I've used similar power supplies on other systems and never seen that before. So I'm not sure where we go from here to maybe try and mod this to deal with that, so I could use that crappy power supply. Or should I just get an old linear power supply for this? That doesn't look too bad. That looks fairly clear actually. But just watch what happens when I disconnect the Atari Vox. Now I'm not sure how well you're going to be able to see that. Let me try and zoom in. Oh, you can actually. I'm just looking at the viewfinder. It's coming up pretty clear. See all these purple speckles? And the interesting thing there is, like I say, if I attach the Atari Vox to controller port 2, it's still there, but it's not as bad. It's really strange. The only thing I can take from that really is that the ground from the audio connection there is something to do with it. You know, it's got this extra audio lead going out to the TV, and that additional ground is helping reduce the issue. But if I unplug it again, you know, obviously it's more pronounced. And I've got to thank some of the people on Twitter actually. I'll perhaps stick some of the names up here. Yeah, one or two people suggested it was perhaps switch mode power supply noise. So what I need now is you know, a linear power supply for this. I'm going to see if I can buy an official Atari one actually. I'll look for a faulty one because I always like to try and repair something if I can. If I can buy, you know, get one with a dodgy cable or something, that would be ideal. So because that one was just absolutely awful, I mean seriously awful, I'm going to show you the insides in a minute. I went for one of these, one of the original transformers that came with these. They might be from the newer 2600 this, but you can see it suffered some damage here. But I thought actually that's an easy repair. We can just literally cut into the grommet here, you know, strip the cable off, slip some heat shrink tubing over there, join it back up, and you know, it should be good as new, and it's an official transformer. Now these are kind of non-serviceable, you know, there's no screws, I don't think. There might be a screw in there, I don't think there is. They're clipped together and glued usually, so, you know, you'd have to break it to get in there, but I think we've looked out with this one. So hopefully you can see that. All I've done is just cut down the length of it there, carefully, and then sideways, and as you can see we've exposed a piece there. Sorry, I know we're awfully close. You can see the wires starting to become visible there, so I just need to go a bit further down. I think I might be able to leave some of the grommet in place. There's probably enough space there now actually. Yeah, I think there is. If I just remove the grommet on the back, that should be enough. Yeah, so there you go. You can just about see, you know, I've removed about that much of the grommet, and we can see now the two wires here. So yeah, I could just you know, cut these off, strip them down a bit, heat shrink, solder, join it all back up. So all joined up. I've slid the heat shrink over, and we're just shrinking that now. So this is the first layer, and then we slide the second piece over, and finally we slide the wider piece over, but right up there like that. So there we go, that's about as shrunk as it's going to get, I think. So I'll just show you inside that power supply actually, because it is, in my mind, lethal. It says CE approved and stuff. It's not. There's no way. This is actually an illegal product. If this had been stopped by trading standards, someone would have got a slap in the wrists for importing this piece of shit actually. And I'm not going to beat that out, or don't excuse my language. It really is dangerous. If I just pull this out here carefully. The first thing is, can you see what's going on here? Mains leads soldered straight onto the connections there. And look at the thickness of the wires. You know, those could just come off. You could have that mains lead there, could float around somewhere inside it. It could even connect to the earth, you know. Well, obviously that's not going to be a problem. It's going to trip your mains if that happens. But the fact that these little wires are like that, with no insulation, no protective, nothing on them at all to protect them. And right, you've got a fuse here, which actually looks like a bulb. Can you see that? I'm not even convinced that's legitimately safe fuse, actually. And it's no wonder we've got noise. Just look at the state of that. You've just got this little chip here doing the switching, presumably. A tiny little transformer, opto, you know, to isolate your primary, secondary sides. Yeah, okay, there's a gap here. But, you know, again, these wires could flow anywhere. Your mains wire could come off and touch this side of this opto or something, or, I don't know, it could touch anywhere, literally, you know, because the length of those wires are pretty long, actually. So, yeah, this is going in the bin. There's absolutely nothing I would salvage off that, to be honest, because they've got awful quality caps on them. Maybe the LED and that diode, and maybe the opto. They're about the only, well, you could take that off there. You probably would find it's not used in any of the power supplies, really. Maybe. But in general, yeah, that's just bin fodder. I wouldn't reuse that for anything. Just maybe reuse the wire. So I thought, while we're here, we'll swap out this LM34OT5, is that? Looked at the data sheet for it. It's 1.5 amp. So you need to swap it with something like a 7805CV, which is rated to, you know, provide up to 1.5 amps. So I'll get some thermal compound on there and solder a new regulator on. So in summary, I took the sound from this side of C120 here, ground just anywhere on the board. And then from modulator, you can see we've got video in there, ground, and VCC on the left. So it's quite easy. I'll perhaps stick an image up here or something, just showing what those pins are, because I think there's 5 pins there. And then coming out the board, you've just got your video out and ground. That's it. So I've added heatsinks there to CPU, TIR, and Riot. Strictly speaking, you know, this is the problem. You know, you've got a few holes here for air to, get out of, but it's this solid piece of aluminium that's, you know, the reason these things can overheat. Yeah, I would suggest if you've got the right equipment, I'd drill a load of blooming holes in this thing, actually. Maybe, you know, this is some sort of thing that maybe would be worth getting a fan in there somehow. Even if you just drill a few holes on the side and then stick a fan to pull heat out or something, there would be a benefit to doing that. So I got my 2 fly leads coming out the back here, you know, and I appreciate it doesn't look great with heat shrink. You know, I've used 2 layers of heat shrink there, just like I did in the CDA remote. You know, I think CDI part 1, where, you know, joined up with a couple of pieces of heat shrink, the inside one super glued down, you know, with insulation tape to isolate, and then the second layer of, you know, heat shrink tubing over there. But I'm just using things that I've got left over, you know, so these are odds and ends I've got. You know, and I could always just tidy it up a bit more in future. Could put some nice gold-plated connectors on the back, but I don't want to cut into the case, you know. But the main thing is, you know, we've got the AV output now, and I've used cable relief here. There's like a plastic slot, and I've slid the video cable down that. You can't pull it out. And the audio is crimped by the underneath of the metal can, so there's no way, you know, you've got strain reliefs on both of those. You couldn't damage them by pulling them. They just crumble to pieces. That one's going to break again now, I think. So I'll replace that one there with a piece of felt. So I thought we'd have a look at this next. Paddle here for the Towie 2600. You can see it says driving on the front there. And all you've got is this spinner and the single button. Now I just tested this and it does seem to work. So despite being described as faulty, it's okay. So I mean, we'll just, you know, have a quick look inside and clean it up. You can see there's some corrosion on that screw there. We'll get those screws out and have a look what's inside. So yeah, not much inside these at all. As you can see, and all it is a series of make and break contacts here, which is interesting by the looks of things. I don't think they're resistive. It just looks like it makes contact, breaks contact. So yeah, all we would need to do is just clean up these contacts. And there's our single fire button there as well, so we can get some contact cleaner in there. You know, there may be mileage in disassembling that switch actually, if yours isn't working, but you know, in this case it is. So I'll just get some contact cleaner in there and then just show you it working. And I guess before we get contact cleaner, we could always just clean up these here with fiberglass pen. You see how much shinier that is now? Just to get the oxidisation off, and then we'll get some contact cleaner, use some cotton buds just to gently wipe over this. But That's all that's required. And it's interesting, as you turn it, I don't know if you can see this, if you just watch that little prong there, just watch it bounce up, look, it's gone up a bit, down a bit. So yeah, you know, that's where your friction is. You may need to replace that if there's that's broken off. But it's a really simple design. So finishing touches there, I've stuck that cap down with a double-sided pad. Actually, it's really sturdy, that won't come off there. And as you can see, just use some heat shrink tube in there just to protect the wires here, just to make sure we don't get short, because obviously it's not the right type of cap. And a quick polish with some back to black, and she's looking good as new, ready to test. And while we're here, I'll give a shout out to a couple of other channels as well, actually. Jay's Vintage Junk has done a couple of composite mods, I think, on 2600s, and Miss Mad Lemon as well, Maddie. So check out the links down below for the videos on their channels. In both examples there, I think they both use like a little breadboard and stuff and create their own little video amp circuit there. So yeah, it's worth checking those out. So I'll switch it on using that new power supply. Well, it's a new old power supply. And as you can see, that looks absolutely sweet. There's an interesting thing goes on with the interlacing actually when you go up and down the menu sometimes. See if we can do it. Did you see it then? It's like a little bit of a shimmer there. You did it then. Like the TV's just for a minute is having a weird issue with the interlace signal there. And I'm guessing it's something to do with the display mode they're using there for the Harmony menu there. You know, you've got these coloured bands coming down. You've got these coloured bands, you know, coming down there and stuff. It's I'm guessing that's in an interlace mode of some sort to get a higher, slightly higher resolution perhaps. But it's working fine. We'll just try Juno first, PAL version of that. Should work with the Atari Vox as well. Sweet. Now it's not been as complete plain sailing as I'm perhaps making out here. I mean, besides that power supply issue, let's just turn down a bit. Besides that power supply issue, the other problem I was having is the colours were totally messed up. Now, there are a few things to take into account with the Atari 2600. The first of which is the PAL and NTSC systems, because of the nature of the way the video signals are created, they use a completely different set of palettes, and there are a lot more colours available to the NTSC palette, the NTSC system, than there is on the PAL system. I'll perhaps post a link down below in the description so you can actually take a look at what I mean. But there is a significant difference there, and they don't map. So I mean, a few of them are almost similar in certain places depending on which colours you use, but in a large number of instances you end up with like greys and things as opposed to, you know, the correct colour that you would get on the NTSC version of the game. So you know, there are quite a few PAL to NTSC vice versa conversions which I managed to download, many of which I've got on this flash card now. So I mean, I can play pretty much every game on this, and I've also got a full set of PAL ROMs here, as well as you know, obviously a full set of NTSC. And you can play either. I can play the NTSC games, but the colours just look crazy. It's interesting actually. When I had and I had a problem with the colour adjustment. You know, that little there's a trimmer in there, variable resistor, and that was completely out. And that was the other thing that threw me. That messed up the colours big time actually. And it really did confuse me. If I just switch this off and we're just going to say Xenophobe, that's a good example. I'll show you. If we go down to good 2600, that's the full set that I've been using this because it's got PAL in there as well. The other ROM sets seem to lack that. I did send this SD card with the same ROMs and things onto a friend actually, and on that version I've not got this folder. So yeah, if that person's watching this video, you want to go away and get the good 2600 ROM set as well. So if I go down to I'll show you the NTSC version first. We'll just load the Xenophobe. And I'm quite surprised actually, some of the games on the 2600 are really good actually, despite the simplicity of the graphics. This game, particularly Xenophobe, it's pretty blooming good for a 2600 game. So the colours there aren't quite right, I don't think, compared to the PAL. They might be almost the same. We'll have a look at the PAL one in a minute. But as you can see, it looks pretty dark there. The colours are a bit odd as well. Now the interesting thing is, when I had that resistor set incorrectly, these were actually, the enemies were green, which is kind of like more fitting. But as you'll see when I load the PAL version, they come out blue. So it's just really weird, the differences from different regions there. But you can see the main character, you know, he's kind of got a green body, the floor's green, his head's kind of like a light green. But if I switch that off and we load the PAL version, you will see that the colours are different. So I mean, like I say, you know, there's mileage actually in some instances of playing the wrong version. You may prefer the palette used as long as it's not making the game unplayable. You may prefer the palette from the wrong region, and that's certainly the case I've found. That's interesting. Weird sync issue going on there. I've not seen that before. But as you can see, the colours there are different straight away, and look how much brighter that is. Because obviously, like I say, this one that's using the PAL palette, and obviously, like I say, the character is different. Can you see it's got like a more of a skin coloured face there, you know, kind of yellow. And the enemies are kind of bluey, sort of greenish, but the background's much brighter. You know, you can see everything really super clear. So that's one of the problems you can have if you've got if you used the wrong game from the wrong region. But this is actually, it looks really simplistic, but it's a really good port of Xenophobe. Actually, it's got all the weapons and things. It's even got the lifts. I'll show you if you can get on the next screen. You've got the larger enemies there when they grow up to full size. The little egg there, it's like one of those roller baby things. You know, if you walk into one when it's like that, it'll knock you over. You can shoot them under like that. It's knocked me over again. It's got the different weapons. I think there's probably a different weapon here. Yeah, there is. That large one's just knocked me over. No, it's not as good as the Lynx. Nothing is a patch on the Lynx version, but it's not bad. You've got grenades as well, I think. Hang on. Just see if we can get to the lift. There might not be a lift on the first ship, actually. I'm not sure. No, there is. There's a grenade there, though. Let's see if we can kill that one and get that grenade. And it can destroy your weapon as well. That's the other thing, you know. If you take an impact, it can you lose your weapon. Then you got to go and find a weapon. Got a grenade there. Took it out with a grenade. Nearly dead. But yeah, anyway, it's pretty good. There are some good games for the 2600. Switch that off and on. Let's have a quick look at Dig Dug, because I am a big fan of Dig Dug actually. And it's just reminded me actually, I've been watching Stranger Things on Netflix actually. I'm on to series 2. And at the start of that, there's a new character comes into that, and she's pretty good at arcade games. And one of the games that you play on there is Dig Dug. It's quite a cool program actually. It's worth checking out. That it's very 80s-ish, you know. Kind of like it kind of reminds me of the Goonies quite a bit. But as you can see, you know, the colours look superb now. We got rid of all those, you know, the purple lines and things that were coming up the display there. You know, there's a bit of ghosting on some games and things, but it is pretty damn good actually. I'm very pleased with the results here. So in summary, it's running really well now. The picture's looking really great. I managed to salvage that original 2600 power supply. It was probably a power supply from a newer 2600, like a Junior or something, I would presume. Actually, it's got that look to it, that power supply. But we dealt with the you know, the noise there. The main thing is it's now composite modded, so I can actually use this, because this is the thing really. You know, I mean, I've had this cartridge here sat around since Christmas. With, well, various things have kind of depressed me actually and made me not want to play this system, but I finally got around to finding some time to composite mod it, so that's good. I've been able to test the Atari Vox on here. That's cool as well. The main 3 chips have got heat sinks on now, a recapped it. It's also got a new 7805 on there. I mean, like I say, you know, perhaps a Recom device or something like that, you know, a more modern device would be a good idea, because then you get less heat. But to be honest, there's nothing else round there for the heat to cause a problem with. It's only it probably doesn't pull very much in the way of current, this, and it's a 1.5 amp regulator anyway, so it's probably good for years, you know, for decades to come, assuming one of the you know, main chips doesn't die. We were able to test out that alternative Riot chip. That was useful, I guess. I do have a Rockwell CPU on the way actually, 6507 is it? I think it is. So I might, if I do another video on 2600, I'll report back on that, but I'm guessing that will probably work as well. It's only the tier that's something of concern on these. Really, it's one reason to get heatsink on. Hopefully you found that interesting. Thanks for watching. I'll see you soon.